Fine.
Fine.
It was great. But it was great.
So you're switching.
Ah.
So you're switching to? I missed the first part. You're switching.
So I'm not actually switching. I'm going to stick with my current behavioral therapist, and we're going to still talk about medications, and then finding the right dosage and in the right amount, because we're still toying with it. But ultimately, from a psychology aspect, he's going to recommend a colleague, because
that makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
So he's more on the medication aspect, and my my physical health, and then he's going to recommend somebody for mental health. And that's why it was so cool. The other day when he's like, hey, so I haven't seen, because he wanted to meet every month. I didn't. I'm like, I want to meet every 90 days. It's hell on my insurance. Like, it's expensive, blah, blah. And he's like, cool. So we can stretch that out. So I hadn't talked to him in a while. So I had to bring him up to speed. Like, hey, Savannah passed away and this happened. And then I was like, and a friend reached out to me and we started doing a podcast together. And he's like, what about? And I started explaining, and he's like, that makes total sense. And he's just awesome. Like, and he's like, you really have grown a lot in like your sense of self. And he's like, if you don't mind, he's like, what is the podcast? Because I'd like to share it with some of my other patients, because I think it would be good for them to hear it. And I'm like, well, some of the stuff is kind of just goofy and whatever. I was like, the stuff that I'm on, the episodes that I'm on, like it's mental health and just being how we view people and being a good person and not a lot of disagreement. It's a collaboration of just good stuff, good feelings. And he's like, yeah, I'd like to share that. And he says, I really think some of our other patients could really benefit from hearing somebody who currently comes to our office that is finding success, because sometimes it can really be an uphill battle for them. And so it's nice to hear a success story. So I'd like to share it with them. And I'm like,
that's awesome. And it's not like you're preaching. We're having a discussion. So it's like somebody listening in on a discussion that we're having. That's really cool.
So,
yay, that's awesome.
And so go ahead.
No, I was going to say, which episode have you pointed him to, or
so I took him direct to the full episode, but I sent him to our mental health episode, like I skipped the abandonment. I didn't really skip it. I know it's our number one.
That was our first one anyway.
But I went to what did we call it? It was our mental health episode where we talked about part. It might have been. I'd have to look it up. I can't remember the dang name of it. I can't remember the name of it because I'm always talking to my friend. And so it's just like, mental health, imposter syndrome, words that destroy families.
Oh, yeah.
That one. And, and then I like to just give people just one and let them decide, like, how far down the rabbit hole they want to go. And that was and so we wrapped it up, and he goes, so it sounds like in your personal life, your professional life, and then your hobby life, that you're just getting a lot of positive feedback. And I am. And he said, you understand that's all you, right? Like, you made the choice, you made the effort, you're deliberate.
Right.
And he says, so you should be proud of yourself. And I'm like, that's tough, man, because you're like, 10 years younger than I am, hearing that. And so, and he's like, well, yeah, but I did have the education for it. You went a different route. And I'm just like, yeah, man, I really appreciate it. And so we're at a really good spot, him and I, and I look forward to just, and again, he's like, we're going to get to a point, just so you know, where we're probably only going to do this twice a year.
Yeah.
And he said, and that's why I want to send you to a colleague, that'll talk.
You've been graduated, or you've graduated.
You have.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, professional, what has really helped me in my professional life, because I'm much more organized, much more deliberate. I can compartmentalize. My favorite part of what it's helped with is my relationship with my wife. It's just we're kind of like teenagers at the moment, like mature teenagers at the moment. And it's a lot of fun. It's a
Every
lot of
time
pressure.
I feel like you want us, like, I could tell it's something like sexual in a way. You're like, because you smile and then like you glare, you like disappear into the looking off in the world, and then you like snap back on even the huge smile on your face. And you're like, yeah, we're like
Uh,
teenagers.
well, so okay, it's when I so in this instance, it wasn't a I wasn't suggesting something sexual, but it is intimate.
Yeah,
And
that's a
it's
better word. Yeah,
playful, and
Mhm.
it's very
It's fun.
yeah,
it's fun, and it's a love and appreciation with my best friend that really
fresh.
it's very
Freudian slip.
it's a really little effort. It's
No,
just a
Yes,
yeah,
little effort, you know.
that
that's
and
the way it should
Um,
be.
that's the way it should be, and that's how we don't. Well, that's the perfect segue, I guess, into the episode. So,
oh
what's
my
up,
gosh, did
everyone?
she have some red flags? Woo! Just
Oh,
kidding.
her. I feel that.
Oh
What's up,
no, I have those
everyone? It's
too.
Bella Mars. Somebody keeps interrupting me. Just I'm just kidding. What's up, everyone? It's Bella Mars. I'm back with another episode, Big Time Fresh. I'm here with JP, and Roberta's here too.
Hi.
Yep, and
Um,
she can totally fix it in post. So welcome,
I'm just
welcome. Thanks for listening, you wonderful, wonderful people.
I like leaving it in now because it's kind of funny.
It is funny. I like it.
So last time we had talked about love and marriage and divorce and post and feelings and everything, but one important thing that everybody goes through either as they're dating or after they get divorced or reflecting on your life are the red flags that you didn't know about, didn't know you're supposed to notice. So we're going to talk about,
Ignored.
yeah, ignored is most of probably what mine were. But we're going to talk about those in case you need to hear it from a third person point of view, because there's a lot of them.
Mhm.
I have two lists pulled up. Um, but I guess I'm trying to think of the best way to go around the horn, around the screen. But maybe it's better if we just have a discussion, so that way we're not, well, making it obvious that we're calling anybody out specifically.
Oh, you're
Um,
Mhm.
talking just straight open forum. Yep.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So actually, so here's one I think that I want um your guys' opinion on too.
Hmm.
How old were you when you found out what gaslighting was? It's funny because
it's it's so sad. I did not know what gaslighting was until I was in my late 30s. I'm turning 40 this
same.
year.
Yeah.
And I up until then, I just thought it was normal. I thought it was like a normal part of relationships. Like that's
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was really happening to me until I had a better understanding of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I got deeper into therapy. And then it was sort of kind of taking a step back, and the rose-colored glasses are off, and you're seeing things for what they are, and you're just like, oh shit, just the
Yeah.
realization hits you. It sucks. I'm
Yeah.
glad I know what it is now. Um,
Did you
wish I had
recognize
known
it
sooner.
where did you recognize it when you're in the middle of it, or was this like a post after everything happened? Now you're looking back and the therapy kind of helped
Um, you
identify.
know, I think it was mostly post, but I would say the recognizing of it started uh towards the end of our relationship. I would say I was starting to see it probably about 6 months before we separated.
Okay. Yeah.
Really seeing it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also looking back in the past, because that saying hindsight is always 2020. It's such a cliche, but it's so true because
Yeah.
you look back on certain events, certain conversations, behaviors, patterns, what be it, and you're like, oh my God, I was totally gaslighted there and I didn't even realize it. And oftentimes in my head, I just explained it away.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, as being my fault because that's, at the crux of
Yeah.
gaslighting.
Yeah. And you're so sweet too. I feel like from what I read, people like us are targets in some, I guess subconsciously or anything like. I don't think people are like, oh, that girl looks like she's super nice, or maybe that's the truth. But because we're so nice, then we become targets for that. How about you, JP?
If I'm being completely honest, the term gaslighting, what's today? Today is Sunday. So I think
Today
I
is
learned
April
about it.
9th.
Yeah, I think I learned about it sometime, the term gaslighting, probably sometime in February. Now, but the action of gaslighting, I would say in my previous marriage that I was the gaslighter. I was the one who um I would think I believe that we both did it to one another, but I think that I was more guilty of that action than her.
Oh, this is gonna be good, interesting part of the
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
conversation.
can I just say, can I give you props for one, admitting, or like I should say acknowledging, and two, being willing to be honest about you thinking you were the
Absolutely.
gaslighter. I think it takes a lot of self-awareness to even be able to say that, you know?
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's much easier
Yeah.
because I'm not married to her anymore. There is that,
But
but how do you? Because I like the idea of our forum, right? That it's a opportunity to share what wisdom we have. We're not clinical people; we're just everyday folk. But if we're not honest, and that really,
yeah.
that doesn't help anyone. So it's embarrassing, but it did happen. It's not who I am today. And so
Mhm.
thank you. Thanks for recognizing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that for any guy to admit their wrongdoings, but this one is really good for the conversation, but also it's really refreshing to hear that
It is.
you're owning up to but 20 years ago at this point, right? Something like that. But
I mean, yeah, like 13 years ago, really. I mean,
Mhm.
and then the decade before that, right? Like,
yeah, it's
but
growing up basically. I mean,
it is, and I can tell you probably around the time I got divorced when I was about 29, and even 35 is when I really started to do some self-reflection and looking back on it. While I feel that in some cases, I can't say that it was 100% me, but there were definitely times of selfishness and narcissism, and self-pity, and all the behaviors that come with that. um that is, whether it was a product of the current situation or just who I was.
mhm,
um I wouldn't even call myself a free spirit then. I would definitely call myself more of a free spirit now. I think then it was just selfishness and narcissism, and so yeah, it's hard, but it's true. And sometimes truths are hard. Once you recognize that, though, and you decide that's not who you're going to be anymore, then that's the path
mhm.
that is, it's far more rewarding. You
Right.
know.
Yeah.
What
But the
about
fact
you?
that you recognized it, that's amazing. And look, it's like you made a decision, you're a completely different person, and your journey has been amazing in
Oh,
every sense of the word. So,
thank you.
so so for me, gaslighting, I think it was maybe like 2 years ago when I started getting confused at why am I crying right now when I came in with the problem to with the it was something that
Yeah,
the other person did.
yeah.
Mhm.
um and I'm like, why is it now my fault and I'm in trouble and I'm crying in it and I have the silent treatment. I've been given the silent treatment. Like, I guess this is a relationship. I mean, this was post marriage. Um
And see,
so
that's hard for me to hear too, because like, um, but my spouse at the time came to me as a victim, and then in a convoluted terrible way, I made myself out to be the victim
Oh.
without acknowledging her stance.
Uh-huh.
And I'll tell you what, like it helps me in my marriage today, because there are times when we are most definitely both the victim. We are both the product of something. The thing is that where I have found success is if she comes to me with something that has made her upset, has hurt her, that she is concerned about,
Mm-hmm.
your natural reaction is to be defensive. Well, you did this and that, and you can't do that. And I have found success, and only recently, within the past year, to be able to stop and go, okay, so what I'm hearing is that when you start to talk about what's going on in your professional life, that I start to talk about my professional life without acknowledging that you're validated and that I heard you. I'm sorry for doing that. And then wait and explain at a later time, hey, the reason that I jumped to talking about my professional life as well is because I want to find common ground with you, and I want to share. I realize that when I'm doing that,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not paying attention to you enough and acknowledging where you're coming from. And it's effing
Whoa.
hard. It's
That's
effing
crazy.
hard.
I
It's
don't know
hard.
if that's maybe I think I might be guilty of that just because I
It's
get so
almost like
excited
almost
to
like one
tell somebody.
upping, right? It's almost like,
Yeah, like
Yes.
unintentional enough.
hey,
It's like me too. I have something to
I
say too. Like,
that's it.
Right.
I went skydiving. Yeah, me too. First time I went skydiving, I'd never been
yeah.
in a plane before, and it's like,
So you ruined my
okay, but
fucking
but you didn't ask me how my skydiving experience
yeah,
was.
exactly. Like you came
Like,
to me and
yeah,
you took exactly my excitement away. And now I don't
you
even
you
care
took it.
to
You took something from them,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
whether it's intentional, because I think a lot of times we in relationships, depending on the person, you don't. It's not with malice.
Hmm.
But even in an indirect way, unbeknownst to you, that you're taking something from your spouse. If they're the first one to share and speak, and then you talk about something about yourself, that's selfish. You're only,
Yeah.
they think, even if you don't mean it, it sounds like you're only thinking about you.
Yeah.
And you don't do that to your partner. Or you shouldn't do that to your partner.
Yeah.
It's a I still see now I know I'm guilty of that. Like because I
We
was
all
t-
are.
I was told
Mhm.
once like I always ask you about how your day was, but you never ask me about how mine was. And in my head, I'm like, well, you can just tell me. But if I should have been more interested. Well, interested is an interesting term, but I should have, been more have more of a caring at attitude in general. I'm not very touchy feely emotionally kind of person. So for me, it's like fact exchange at that point in the marriage. So we're just exchanging,
Um,
you know what I mean?
I
Like,
think that you're being a little hard on yourself, because my wife could get ready to bleed. My wife could give two shits about my career or what I do, right? So to hear about my day is boring for her. It is not, she doesn't want to hear about that stuff. What she might want to hear about is what kind of successes or wins I had that day,
hmm
or she knows that I'm an emotional person, so she might want to hear about how my interaction was with my president, and how I feel in that regard. But as far as like my day, every single day, she doesn't care, and she has a right not to care. I don't want to hear about her sales. What do I want to hear about? That she hit an accelerator on her bonus, and
yeah,
I want to hear that stuff. So I think you're being maybe a little bit too hard on yourself, as we all are, but that also shows that you are caring and you're empathetic, and you recognize yourself. But we're all guilty of that. But the reasoning
yeah,
why you do that, I think, is something that it's harder to find. So
yeah.
give yourself a little bit of a break.
Okay. I'll give it I'll give myself a break on that one. Because now I'm thinking like, but why do I have to be I don't know. It's like then just tell me how your day was. Like why am I in trouble for not asking you how your day was? I feel like that's around and
You
around that
shouldn't
circle
be.
be, you know?
And
It's weird.
that's
That's
gaslighting, right?
gaslighting, I
That
think.
That's
right? Like it's
gaslighting.
Right?
like and I think that that could go with many things in relationships, is that level of intent. Are you asking them how their day was because you want to hear about how their day was, or are you asking in the hopes that they ask you?
And then it's
Can
like a whole selfish
Yeah.
thing.
Can I
Yeah.
interject?
Please,
Of
yeah.
course you can.
We can talk over
So
each other all the time, and then whoever
I
talks the loudest
just
wins.
I don't want to step on any
No,
toes or
you're
anything.
good.
Um, so I was one of those people with my ex where I genuinely cared about how his day was. And it was not necessarily that I wanted to like hear his like the details of what he did
Hmm.
or anything. I'm just talking
Right.
about like umbrella. Did you have a good day? Right. Like JP
Hmm.
said, did you have any wins? Like, how did your interactions go? Stuff like that. Because I genuinely cared and I wanted to hear about his day, what how his day was, and I never did it with intent that he would ask me how my day was. Um, however, when it came to certain things where it was like I had something big going on at work and he was aware of it and he wouldn't ask me how it would go like
Yeah.
after I would ask him how his day was, and it wasn't like a baiting or anything, but even
Hmm.
if it was, you know, I like yeah, sometimes knowing it was important to me and
And you've probably been talking about it.
yeah, I'd been talking
I have a
about it.
question.
Yeah.
Does your ex love his job?
No.
Do you
But
love
I
your
didn't love
job?
mine. Not at that point I didn't. No.
Really? Oh, see,
Yeah.
that's my thing, is I love my career. I love the people. I love it.
Hmm.
My wife does not.
Hmm.
And so to her, it's just money. It's just like, I'm doing a job, I'm getting paid, that's it. And I think a lot of times that when you love something, like you want to share that love. I'm
Hmm.
surprised to hear that from you, is that you didn't love it, and
I
but what you
didn't love
did,
it.
but you loved the success that you were getting,
I
right? Like
loved the
the growth.
success. Yes. And I was damn good at it. I'm still damn good at my job. Like that's
Yes.
the thing,
Okay.
Right.
I've been in my field for 10 years. So it's like I know what I'm doing. And even though I may not love it, like I still have good work ethic and I want to be successful at it, right? No matter
Yeah.
if my whole heart is in it or not. And there was like no interest in that aspect of it. Like I would have to volunteer that information, which fine, right?
Sure.
But it was
Do you think it
difficult.
was not even like top of mind, like selfish, kind of coming from a selfish point of view, where he just didn't
Yeah.
care?
Yeah. It was again when there were because my relationship was long and there were red flags from the beginning. um I found myself explaining away a lot of those behaviors and
Making
excusing it,
excuses.
making excuses. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
He,
became
he
the norm for me.
Same.
so like when it comes to there, I think there are certain red flags that I think that are acceptable. I think that there are certain red flags that are unacceptable. It is a
Mm.
degree, right? Like we have in our judicial system, first degree, second degree, third degree, so on and so forth. Um, I am going to, as we are on the topic of red flags,
Yes. Let's hear your red flag.
I'm related to Roberta, so this is going to be a little bit tricky. So you're on a dating app and you match with somebody and you talk to them, and ultimately, what you find out about this person, this guy that you're talking to, um, he travels for work at a job that he is
Sorry, I'm
basically
distracted. Hi,
That's Molly.
Dougie. Okay. Sorry. Okay,
But
sorry.
Sorry.
you're good. You find out that this individual is they're traveling for work. They don't really have a career. They're 1099. They're gone for 9 days at a time. They are locked into a lease with their ex-girlfriend, and they are still in the same house with one another. And they've only, been in the state that they're in for basically a year. That doesn't sound like security to me. That doesn't sound like,
I mean, it
that
sounds
that
like I don't know who it applies to, so I'll be gentle. It does sounds like a bad. I would be like, nope.
you would be like, nope, right? And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
later asked her, I'm like, hey, why did you, I mean, these are legitimate red flags. Like,
Hmm.
why did you looked past them? And she goes,
Mhm.
well, I didn't really look past them. Like, they were there and I was cognizant and I was aware of them. But, the way that you spoke about your path for a career and where you wanted to be, she said, I believed you when you said, this is not who you are. This is just a time in your life, and that you had aspirations to be something different, and then you proved it. And she said, and it happened quickly. It's not like it drug out for,
Yeah.
months and months and months. So, but a red flag for me, dating somebody, and it's like, yeah, where do you live? Well, I was dating this person for a year, and we're stuck in this lease, and I'm going to be there for a couple more months, and so he's in the master bedroom, and I'm in the other room at the other end of the house, and it's like, great. Um,
Yep. That's
Yeah.
me. Bye.
Call me when you move out.
that's it, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. So, but I got lucky, and I really think that's why she's my person, because I was genuine, I was honest, and
Mhm.
maybe that's the difference at 35 as opposed to 26 or whatever it
Yeah.
may be. Like, you know, um, I think that, like, red flags where you cannot, like, there is no excuse, is violence, whether it be verbal, physical, this and that. How they treat children, whether you plan to have children or not. If
Right.
somebody can be, well, we all have children, right? So if we were
Mhm.
entering into a new relationship and this person was negative in any way toward children, or maybe how they treat their parents. I met my wife's family very quickly, and there were a lot of kids, and I think she realized quickly, like, oh shoot, this guy wants to be a dad. Like, I love kids
Yeah.
as long as they're on rent and I can get them
Yeah.
back at the end of the day, unless it's mine, even my own.
Yeah.
Like,
There's days where I'm like,
eventually they
You're
have to
like,
sleep, like, yeah.
yeah.
I need a break.
um
I've had enough.
and so, I mean, I'd like to hear both from you, because the red flags with my wife are pretty minimal. And now I can think of previous relationships where it wasn't just a red flag; it was a damn cowbell dinging next to my head that I ignored. So I'd like to hear from the two of you, like high level, 10,000 foot view. What are some of those red flags? Um, I mean, I know your ex on a very intimate and personal level, plutonic intimate. Um, and is I know your ex as well, and I can tell you, if I was ever in a situation with my wife and she started hitting on somebody in my presence, like, whew, boy,
Ugh.
I that's terrible. So
Yeah,
I'd
I
like to
mean,
hear what those red flags are for y'all.
so I'll jump on that. And I'm gonna also just kind of include some.
Sorry for putting you on the spot.
No, that's what this is for. So
She said
I'll
she had a list. I have
yeah.
mine.
We
Whoa,
were supposed to
nice.
write lists.
I have a
No,
list.
I was doing
Story
my
of my
hair and
life. I didn't study
all
and
this
I'm not
stuff.
prepared.
Yeah. No, I was
um
doing my hair and like stuff was coming to me and I was like, I better write this down
That
because I
makes
don't
sense.
remember
I don't have much hair. That's probably why.
it.
well, so when I started noticing it being I found that I don't know if I was wanting to get married or if I was trying to succeed at a goal that I set. Um, so it helped.
Heavy.
It made me,
Mhm.
yeah, I think I overlooked a lot. So, like I said before, he was very popular in college, and there were a lot of girls, but I would fight them off. And looking back, I would fight them off because I wanted to win. I feel like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, oh, I'm that means I'm prettier than you and I'm better than you. And then after college, there was this kind of lull of, okay, so there's no like there's nothing going on to where there has to be drama, I guess would be the way to put it.
Mm.
So then so once
There
all
has to be a
that went away,
challenge.
yeah, yeah, there has to be some kind of ambition. And now I'm talking generally about a couple different people guys. Um,
Sure.
the people like look, video games are cool. I get it. I love having hobby time and whatever, but when you don't have a job and I have a job and I come home and you're still playing video games and then you get mad at me for saying you're playing video games just because I'm your wife doesn't mean you get a pass. You know what I mean? So it was like, oh, you're always bitching at me like you're like I'm like you're not my mom. Like things like that to where it would make me think like yeah, I shouldn't say that, but I should say something. You know what I mean? Where they're telling
Yeah.
me I shouldn't say that. That makes me like this, or that makes me like this. So then in my head, I'd be like, okay, so I can't talk about video games. Okay, I shouldn't talk about how he eats or how he doesn't clean up about himself because he'll complain about how I'm talking about it to him. So then towards the end of it, there's this long ass list of things where it's like, okay, that was my fault, but it was just overwhelmingly like obvious that this is I can't live my life with all of these like checklists in my head of what I can and cannot say before every single
Uh-uh.
conversation. Like
Mhm.
it's like a 5 minute like, all right, how do I don't think there should ever be like a think about how you have a normal conversation because you don't want to piss that person off with no, you're not coming to them with anything. You just want to have a normal conversation, but you're trying to make sure that you don't piss them off in any sort of way. And
Damn.
I think that's all encompassing also, but that's what I've encountered the most. So
Yeah.
that's me.
Yeah.
Damn.
Um,
Roberta.
okay. I'm warning y'all now. I may get emotional because this is all very
It's
fresh
very
for me
fresh for me.
still.
Time out. I'm the crier.
I'll be the crier too.
Oh,
I'm a
okay. No, go
crier.
ahead. Go.
Let me just, I've been crying all week. So, um,
That's healthy.
so I have a lot of red flags. So I'm gonna try to go through them as much as I can and really touch on the ones that were the most prominent for me.
Sure.
And again,
Yeah.
these are all things that I had to see later on, but reflecting back on them, um, it's like, oh God, that was one. And then there's that. And then there's that. It's
Yeah.
again this realization. Well, first and foremost, I think another big flag that we don't really talk about is putting your own insecurities and past relationship trauma and bringing it into your new relationship and putting these certain expectations on your new partner that has to do with your past experiences and then sort of upholding them
Mm-hmm.
to these standards or expectations that will never be met, will
Can I
never
can
be
I
met.
interject very, very quickly because of where I am being married now, right? And where the two of you currently are. Um, Very quickly with my first marriage, um, frankly, I needed to be fixed. I was broken.
Mm.
I needed to grow. When we split, I spent the next 4 or 5 relationships, 2 long-term relationships, trying to fix that person like my ex had tried to fix me
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
with the ultimate by and in doing that I was still ignoring the fact that I needed to fix certain things about myself. And only when I
Exactly.
stopped and paid attention to myself first and acknowledged these truths that I needed to be fixed, when I came into my next relationship with that person, there was nothing to fix.
Wow.
I needed to continue the path of working on myself, but I became my ex.
Yeah.
The thing that I hated the most, hate's a strong word, might be the right word, but I hated I that's the thing that I hated the most. That's the thing that I loathed, and I
Yeah.
became that in a very insidious way, and I
Mhm.
didn't even pay attention to it. So,
Wow.
go
That's
ahead.
heavy too. Yeah.
Well, I love that you say that, because when you're 15 and going into a relation, none of that stuff occurs, right? None of that stuff
Shit,
occurs. But
no.
this was like a thing I was held to our entire relationship. We talk about gaslighting, and Bella, you hit on it when you were talking about minimizing minimizing your feelings, and even like making you feel guilty for having those feelings, and shifting the responsibility to you, right? There were many a conversations that we would have where he was mad at me, and I would tell him, what did I do? First of all, because I would never
Right.
know. He would tell me, I would apologize for upsetting him in that way, no matter how minuscule or ridiculous it was, because I was already feeling guilty about it, right? Because I did something wrong. And then it would always turn to, okay, well, the way that you made me feel when you were angry at me was really hurtful. And, it's the same, ignoring me for days at a time, not even acknowledging my existence. Even like when I would try to initiate conversation, nothing. And so I would have to go in my closet and cry, because even my tears would set him off.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so when that conversation would finally occur, and I would say, this is how, I'm feeling because of the after effects of this. And literally telling him I feel like I'm walking on eggshells all the time, because I don't want to set him off, because I'm scared to make him angry.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately turning it around on me, literally using my own language against me. Now, all of a sudden, he's walking on eggshells around me, and he doesn't know how I'm going to act
Oh my
in
God.
regards to him.
Yeah.
And he made me feel
uh,
crazy. Yeah.
you know why crying was a heavy one for me. Once I realized whether because I do think there were cases where crying was used as a weapon, but with like my wife now, when she cries, there in the beginning it was a trigger for me. That, and yeah, it didn't aggravate me. I didn't like it, and it made me this. I can explain this now in hindsight, that it made me uncomfortable. It made me upset, and the reason
Mhm.
being that the conclusion that I've come to is that that's my fault. Like, I caused that, like, which means now I have to self reflect, and I have to admit that I effed up. I have to admit my fault and that I was wrong. And when you're a narcissist, I'm not saying your ex is. I love that person. But that's your take. You can whatever. But
They
with
come
I
hand
that,
in
neither
hand.
confirm nor deny.
when you do not interject yourself in your participation in this conflict, um because you don't want to admit it, then the hurt that you're causing your spouse is going to aggravate you, because then you have to look at yourself, and it's just a round and round and round thing. This is why my wife and I, if we do get in a disagreement, the disagreement happens, and then there might be 2 or 3 days of what we call the spiral. Things are said on both sides. when we go to the conflict resolution, we do not address anything that happened in the spiral. We don't. Name calling, which we're pretty good about, but anything that happened in that spiral, we don't talk about it.
Is it because it's kind of it's like the reactions that you had from the disagreement that you don't want to count towards the actual disagreement
Yeah.
itself, kind of?
Because I mean, then it becomes a bunch of you did this, you did this, you did this,
Gotcha.
like,
Yeah.
and then you negate or ignore the original reason why.
I gotcha.
And the
Yeah.
hardest part about that sometimes is acknowledging that you are responsible for why
Mm-hmm.
this conflict started. And then anything past that is generally because somebody is hurt
Mm-hmm.
and they have run out of options to try and figure out how to get through to you, and so they lash out with words or actions and this and that. Like, if they do something like and then a lot of things come out of spite. Like if you're the one, for example, that makes coffee every single day,
Mm-hmm.
and then you deliberately do not make coffee, you're being petty and you are doing it to be
Oh
hurtful.
yeah.
And then what you do is you say to them, well, you never make coffee. And it's like, well, that's in the spiral. That's not the root of it. So then you go back to the original conflict, you address that, you come to that conclusion, and then later you say, hey, I had some self-reflection. I realized that I don't like being responsible for making coffee every day. Frankly, okay, so what's the compromise? Well, whoever puts our child down at night because they're laying in bed with them, could the other person make the coffee? Yeah, cool. Is that so effing hard? No. But when you're in the spiral, when you're in that moment,
Yeah.
it's
That's a
it's it's
very good
near
point.
it's near impossible to get to
Yeah.
that.
It's
So
all resentment. Like,
Yeah.
you do the fucking copy then if you don't want me to do it.
Right.
anything that petty stuff, that stuff that's in the spiral, that's tough. But if both parties aren't willing to recognize their involvement, which Roberta, that may I'm an outside perspective with somebody that I
Mm-hmm.
love. That may have I'm not trying to negate your feelings and not validate you. If that's the case, that's tough
Mm-hmm.
and it's terrible because if that person's not willing to admit their involvement and their part of it, then anything that happens after that on both sides is not the root.
Yeah.
Right.
And if the root is, hey, you have to accept responsibility for your actions and the things that you do, and that person's unwilling to do that, you're not going to get anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would oftentimes think of that because I didn't want to be that person, which is whenever I would like genuinely upset him with something I said, my behavior, whatever it may have been, like I would sincerely be apologetic because you know me and I would never intentionally hurt somebody. Like I, that goes
Yeah, but then
against,
they pounce on it and they
yeah,
use it as a weapon, and
they
then they
do.
drive it into you, and then what ends up happening? You stop apologizing for stuff that you know that you should because you're going to be attacked.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's
it's a
either, yeah,
protective mechanism that you
yeah,
create.
yeah. I ended up, yes, I had to hide some stuff that I was doing because I lived in fear of whether or not it would set him off. And it was even just normal things too, because it was like no matter what, no matter the responsibility that I did take, because I am in no way perfect and I was not in that relationship. However, I will 100% own up to every single mistake that I made because I feel like that's how we learn and that's how we grow. Sometimes we
Yeah.
repeat mistakes, right? Um it, but it was like it I was always the one making mistakes. He never made mistakes. It was that sort of thing where it
Yeah.
was always, or it felt like it was always, like I said, flipped down
Mm-hmm.
around on me. And
Uh,
not to say like he never apologized for certain things
sure.
because he did, it wasn't always 100% bad, but when it was bad, it was really fucking bad. Like to the point where I would have to remind him time after time, I'm telling you please do not treat me a certain way because it is traumatic for me. And I understand you need your time, but can you please like not completely ignore my entire existence, you know?
Yeah.
I
Or
have a question.
yeah.
So with the idea or the topic of red flags, would you say the two of you,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that these red flags existed, would you say that you operated in your relationship a lot of times just out of fear?
Oh yeah.
And what I mean by that, out of the fear that these red flags, you're paying attention to them. They are there. You're not comfortable with them. And every time that you went to try and acknowledge these or communicate these to your partner, that you were met with uh aggressive opposition. That would you say that you lived in kind of a constant state of fear? Not of like being hurt, but like
No.
Uh,
but afraid that do you understand what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Yeah. I was, it got to the point where I would even weigh out what I was going to say beforehand because could this trigger him?
You would try and have the conversation in your head and trying to think of every possible answer that they could possibly have so that you could try and prepare yourself to navigate it. And no matter how hard you tried, you
Yeah.
still found that it did not go the route that you thought.
No.
How can one be successful and flourish and be happy if they're living in a constant state of fear?
You
Well, that
can't.
was the thing. I wasn't happy. I wasn't flourishing. I felt unstable. I've come to realize a lot of the source of my depression and anxiety was that relationship. Um, and there are some things about it that I'm still having a hard time coming to terms with it. But it was even stuff like when he would determine he was ready to talk, it was always at night when we were about to go to bed. And I would be dead tired at this point, right?
I
Because
Yeah.
effing hate that.
I
Oh my
can't.
god,
working,
I hate that. Sorry.
working, no, taking care of our daughter, doing all that stuff. And I'm ready for bed. And he would keep me awake for hours trying to talk. And I've come to find that that is actually a common practice of
Yeah.
narcissists.
That's
Again,
Imagine
not
trying to go
crazy.
to
saying,
sleep and then they dump a bucket of ice cold water
well,
on
it's
you in the bed.
well,
The,
it's because you're less likely to argue back because you're so tired. It's
You're
finding
defeated.
you at a weak point. Yeah. And he would do that a lot to me.
We don't capitalize on weakness with our spouses. We need to focus on their strengths. And frankly, what competitive person wants? We're all competitive. I want her best.
Yeah.
Like that's tough.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
really tough.
I mean, even things like if I had a strong female friend, he would find reasons for me not to be friends with them anymore. They would suddenly turn into being toxic. My best friend, she has really helped me to find my inner strength and my voice. And oh, he did not like that. He hates her. Um, it was always there's something wrong with this friend. She's toxic. She's bad for you. She's negative. And I didn't have very many friends or even like activities that I could do by myself. Like
mhm.
I got into running and then all of a sudden he got into running and we had to do it together. I started working out with a group of people and I was doing well and then all of a sudden he has to join and working
Oh,
out
wow.
is now our thing together. And then even like when we moved and it was COVID and there was nothing going on, I would go take the dogs out for a walk because that was my time, my alone time, my
Yeah.
quiet time. Pretty soon he started going on those
Um,
walks with me.
you
So
Wow.
know,
I had
I
no solo activities.
I don't want to speak ill of of anyone. So I'm only going to share my personal deal. Um, and maybe I'm very, very fortunate. Maybe it's rare. I don't like having, with the exception of baseball, I don't like having activities. I when I'm very happy. I'm in a good spot. So when with like working out or an activity, I want her there.
Mhm.
Like when it comes to our workout machine, which I mean, hey, if they want to sponsor, Peloton, that'd be great. But
I
but
could use
like
one of
that's
those.
I
I know.
want
Can we
like
do a
that's
before and
not.
after Peloton?
Oh yeah. I want to do that with her because before her father passed away, that's what we were doing. She would ride and then she would come down the hallway and it'd be my turn and we'd high five and then like I want to be around her all the time with stuff like that. Now, I can tell you in my other relationships where it was toxic and it wasn't a good deal, I found myself definitely seeking things that were outside of her that she wouldn't want to do. And I knew that she wouldn't want to do it. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
I would seek those things to get my time,
Yeah.
you know? And again, I don't want to speak ill of I'd like to say in a perfect world, in a fairy tale, like, yeah, he wanted to do that stuff with you because he wanted to be around you. What I'm hearing though is maybe he wanted to do those things, and this is me just being purely objective, that he wanted to do those things to keep a certain level of control.
Yeah.
I don't
That's what
like
I'm hearing
maybe.
too.
Okay,
Yeah.
so and again, I love him. Yeah, to me, like he's an incredible person. You're an incredible person. The fact that you are not incredible together is okay. It's totally okay. But that's oh man, I was there, Berta. I was there.
Yeah.
That's tough.
It is.
And
It's been hard. Sorry, go ahead.
no, no, no. Go ahead.
Um, it's just as a person, an individual, you want a certain amount of autonomy, right? Like, and I understand wanting to spend time with the person you love, right? And the person you like being around. But when you are constantly doing everything
Suffocated.
together, going to the store together, in the house together, shopping together, like whatever it is, errands that need to be run. And then, yeah, exercising, running, and the
And you're
things like
not
that,
happy?
and I'm not happy. And the things like that the working out and the running and stuff like that would always turn into a competition and turn into a one-upsmanship. And I don't engage with that. So it was more like the only one-upsmanship I'm in is with myself to push myself.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
it almost made me not want to participate because of it, because then it was like I'm looking down on you, you know,
Oh, yeah.
oh, you're not, your stance isn't right, you're running wrong, and then it was like nitpicky of all the things that you're not doing well, and that's what it would turn into.
That's shitty.
Wow.
Even insulting, my favorite pastime, which was reading. I got told that I read too much and it gave me too much knowledge and it took time away from him.
Oh my ooh, goodness.
Mhm. And I'm a
That's
reader.
rough.
I'm a huge reader. I've been a bookworm
But
since the day I
even
could read.
I'm
that,
so envious of readers.
I
Oh,
know, me too. I'm trying.
and yeah, that maybe that's it too. Like, do we? I think a lot of people in society they I could be very, very mistaken, but um weaker individuals lash out against things that they don't understand, or maybe that they're envious of. Like, I wish that I had the deliberate diligence to read more.
Mm-hmm.
You suck because you can do that. And that, like,
It's possible. Wait, I gotta show Roberta because I got I got a JP to read it.
Okay, so
Dang
this
it.
is funny. I'm not saying anything. You go. Stand back.
I was looking for it on my bookshelf. I already have it. But when I read it,
Uh-huh.
I was not in the right mental space to
Sure.
really accept it for all it is. So I am going to read it again because I think it'll help me incredibly more than
It's
it
so
did the first
crazy.
Well,
time.
if you like a British accent or South African, I'm really not sure what it is, but
I
man,
love
is it
any kind of
captivating.
accent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's captivating.
It really did
Yeah.
change my outlook because I don't give a fuck about half the things I used to. And it's
Yeah.
easier not to give a fuck when there's nobody else telling you should be giving a fuck about
Yeah,
something you shouldn't or don't
exactly.
need to. So,
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you that was super helpful for me to listen to that audiobook. It's 5 hours, so I just listened to it back and forth to work every single day.
Mhm.
And then it put me into a really good headspace. So now what I've segued into is I have segued into Huberman Lab, and he's a professor at Stanford, and professor of pardon me, but I think it's neuroscience. But then talking about the neurological reasons of why your
Mm.
emotions and your brain acts the way that it does, and I'm getting
it's
goosebumps
so
because it is
fascinating that
so
stuff.
It
it's
really
effing
is.
Yeah.
fascinating. And
Oh,
I even was talking to my wife about something that happened the other day where I was like, oh, can I share something with you? And she's like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, so I'm listening to this neuroscience podcast, and I'm like, I did this because it was a reflective reaction. It was a reflex. That's what my brain is. And so, and then talking about the segue for that to being deliberate, and just like it is eye opening to look, what's one of the biggest challenges that I have ever had is understanding myself and why I act the way that I do and why I react the way that I do and the actions that I take. And it comforts me to know that there is a scientific, neurological
Yeah.
reason why.
Yeah.
And it's an understanding of self that is,
It
man,
takes a higher
I
level
could
of
cry because
intelligence.
it is so cool to know, like, oh man, I'm not, there's nothing wrong with me.
yes.
That's important. That's important for
Yes.
everybody. But yeah, to know that there's an element of it that's very scientific is very comforting, I think.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
I
with that, I'm so thankful that I'm not dating anymore, because I think my red
Oh
flag list would like totally change now,
my God.
versus stuff that
Yeah.
I would be tolerant of,
yeah.
and stuff that I would just be totally intolerant of, like,
Yeah.
and that, like, that's why I am so grateful that my wife has stuck with me while I have been on this journey and been able to navigate. um and I'm not envious in any way of the two of you, because I think that you're both on these incredible paths and journeys, that you will be setting yourself up for such greater success should you decide to have a partner or not. It's a win-win, because of you will have your great sense of self. I really hit the effing lotto with not having myself figured out, and then having a partner that is willing to be around and let me make mistakes, and be tolerant and patient, so long as I acknowledge when I make mistakes and when I F up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I were dating now, and it's like, I'm sorry, you don't have any grasp on the neurological reasons on why you have the emotions that you do.
It's a
Look, it's
red flag.
2023, and by the way, the
Yeah.
bill is $50. I need $25.
You're like, wait a minute, you don't know about dopamine levels? I'm sorry, we can't
Right.
talk.
Yeah, red flag.
Right.
Bye. How about
So I
yeah?
go ahead.
No,
Yeah,
I was
no,
saying
go ahead.
Roberta, I want to hear any more of your red flags. Did you have
Ooh,
listed, or
yeah.
if you want to talk about them?
Yeah.
Yeah, effing lists, man. Been studying.
Yeah. I got that. Let me see. I'm like looking, no, so
Get it
no,
together,
so okay.
JP.
Um,
So get your lists together next time.
all right. I want to also say an invasion of privacy.
Ooh,
Um,
that's a good one.
and
Oh,
this is taking advantage of knowing your partner's like phone, pin or their passwords or whatever. Obviously, the reason your partner has given you access to that is because they trust you
Right.
not to invade your privacy. However, the moment that you use it to go in there, search
Malice.
out things, right, that you consider to be bad and then use that against them, right?
Yeah.
Like I know in instances where people are like, "Oh, I looked in their phone and I saw they were cheating on me or whatever." Look, I am in the frame that you should not be going through your partner's personal stuff. Period.
Yeah.
Period. 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 Because and I have to say this, maybe it's because when my ex did it to me, I know for a fact that was not the first time he did it. And it makes me wonder how long that had gone on before he determined he found something that he shouldn't have to use against me.
Oh.
Um,
Like they were looking for it or
yeah,
hoping to
Yeah, like they're
find it.
hoping.
hoping for it.
Yeah. Let me tell you guys this. So I'm a writer. I love to write. And instead of journaling, I will write poetry because it is a way for me to get out my thoughts, express my emotions in that time,
Mm-hmm.
period. Right. Not necessarily like that's what I'm feeling all the time, just at that moment. When we were in the midst of fighting, towards the end, he decided to go into my side table drawer, dig out my poetry journal, read my poetry, and use it against me.
Oh my
Um,
God.
and there were things I had written about him. So when he came to me about a poem that I had written and was like getting on me about what it meant, I was like, well, did you read the poems that I wrote about you? Because they weren't nice. They were not nice. And he said, yeah. And he totally disregarded that part,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
It was his focus was only what he wanted to focus on.
Mm.
So he actually got mad at me when I took away his access to my phone and changed my password. And so it got to the point where he was like demanding me send him certain things because he didn't have access to it himself. Um, that right there, major red
Dang.
flag.
That's a
Anybody,
red flag.
Yeah.
anybody who would use your own written words against you in something that is wholly 100% personal and private and something you would never share with anybody else,
Yeah.
and to use that as a reason to make you feel like shit and make like you're doing wrong for even
Right. He
having
shouldn't even been in
thoughts.
there he should never have even
Yeah.
felt he had a right
Man,
to go in there.
I think back to Good Will Hunting. And I think about what Robin Williams, his character, is talking about, and what it's like to be truly vulnerable, and you you are the opposite of strength. You are at your absolute weakest moment,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
can level you if they wanted to.
Mhm.
And instead of leveling you, they take you in that weak moment and they make you feel strong.
Mhm.
They lift
Yeah.
you up.
Yeah.
Never had that before.
Never had that
So
before.
so to take, because that's what people typically do. They take
Mhm.
those words, they take those vulnerable things, and then they use it as a weapon.
Mhm.
And that to me is why I'm so grateful, because mine doesn't.
Yeah.
She
That's the difference.
Yeah.
so definitely a red flag. The challenge is, right, that what percentage of people that are out there
Mhm.
use that crap as a weapon?
Exactly. Exactly. And it even got to the point where I was like, well, I'm just not going to write anymore because I was already
And
having a
that's
hard time.
terrible. It's
Right. And I
taking
was
away your joy.
taking away my joy. I
Yes.
was already having a hard time writing as it was because, I was dealing with anxiety and depression. And so when it finally is able to come to me and I can write, it's almost like miraculous, right? Because it's like, oh, I haven't done this in so long, when the inspiration strikes. And then, yeah, for it, like JP said, most vulnerable, like the truest words coming deeply from my soul in that moment, again, may not reflect how I'm feeling the next day,
Right.
but
Sure.
at
Yeah.
that
But you had to
moment,
get it out, right?
Yeah.
And then
but I had to
ultimately
get it out.
they resent the fact that they don't have access to it anymore, and you resent the
Yeah,
resentment, and it's just a vicious cycle and this
yeah,
and that. So
yeah,
what
yeah.
what's another red flag?
Um,
She has a list.
I
I
know.
do have a list. When your partner threatens to harm or kill themselves based on something that
Oh,
you're doing.
that
Um,
that's that's a
that's a big one.
really hard one. Yeah.
That's a really hard one. I myself, I have struggled with self harm in the past, and that was really more when I was like a teenager, and in my 20s. And thank goodness I have had therapy and I've been able to overcome that. And I'm actually very vocal about it because I think that oftentimes there's such a taboo associated with stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
people don't speak about it openly. And I'm such a huge proponent of mental health that all the struggles and crap that I've gone through, I'm so willing to talk about it openly just to let others know out there that they're not alone in
Mm-hmm.
going through the same thing. I think it's so, so important. And also for my work, the work that I do, I am trained in suicide awareness.
Oh,
So it is something
that's
that I
good.
take very, very seriously, right? Um, so having a fight and having your partner tell you that they're so upset with you that they're going to kill themselves in one way or another, um, and using suicide or harming yourself as a manipulation technique pisses me off because there are so many people who will say that and are actually serious about it and need to be heard and are ignored, and they go through with the process. So to
And what
threaten
guilt would you
something like
feel
that,
that
Yeah.
you
right?
know
Had I not
but then
said
it gets used
anything,
against you in this scenario. Then you get with the
mm-hmm,
you move on to another person, be it an intimate relationship or not,
mm-hmm,
and then you are so poisoned and numb to that kind of stuff that you're like, I'm protecting myself this time, and then
yep,
that person does it,
right,
and then what happens? You feel guilt, right?
yeah,
Oh.
So it's a terrible one. Oh
yeah,
yeah, that's a
yeah,
red flag.
yeah,
That's a
Whew.
red flag.
yeah. um that's a huge, huge red
I've
flag.
still got PTSD from that red flag. We spent the entire time, as we're getting close to the end here, we spent the entire time talking about red flags. And if I can offer, my thoughts on why we don't talk about why we didn't talk about green flags or good things, is because of how easygoing we are, a good amount of people are, and thereby, hey, don't do, these things on Roberta's list, or his list, right? Don't do these things, and we can navigate everything else
Right.
together, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Because things will change along the way too.
That's right.
And these will be my closing thoughts. Everything's fluid, but yeah, if there's something that you went through that's traumatic and that you just personally never want to go through again, you never have to go through it again because you
Yeah.
just, make sure that, well, first of all, now you know how to identify it way quicker. And then if you do identify it later, you know the outcome. You just gotta, how leaving immediately is going to be way better than waiting an extra day. And that's something I think when you're younger and you get married, you think, okay, well, wait it out, it's fine, wait it out. Years go by and then it's way too late. Which is interesting because I think the amount of people who are doing that are in marriages that are in these positions but aren't maybe they don't have their own job, or maybe they don't have a backup income, or maybe it's a really dangerous situation. They're stuck in these marriages and they can't get out, or they don't feel strong enough to get out.
Right.
So hopefully, hopefully this will be a sign for somebody, or just a message that it's not normal for any of this, and it's also there's ways out. And talk to the people who you care about the most, and ask for their honest assessment of what they're seeing from their side.
And to piggyback on that is, for those of you that are listening that don't think that you're strong enough, you are.
Mm-hmm.
You are. You have grit. You have the ability. That first step is, pardon the cliche, it is the biggest step, but you are strong enough.
And I think
don't
of
forget
it.
that.
How I look at life now is like, when I read my life story, what do I want my life story to say? My life story is going to be passed down to my daughter's going to read my life, the theoretical or probably written down as a book life story. All of these moments that I go through are going to be in my life story. If I had a chance, if I mess up 2 times on the same thing and cause myself the same, traumatic situations, and that takes up 30 years of my life, that's pretty obvious that I wasted a lot of my life not learning from my mistakes. So as I'm writing the book of my life, I want to make sure that it progresses in a way that I can be proud, that when my daughter takes the story and passes it, this is what grandma used to be like. That's what she said. That's what. So at the end of the day, I think the way I'm looking at it is, I need to make sure that the decisions that I make hold strong for generations to come. I guess it's like, look at your mom, your great grandmother. Look how strong she was. Look at how she did it. That's kind of how I ride nowadays.
I think
Thank
it's
you.
especially important for us with
Mm-hmm.
daughters,
Yeah.
in that sense.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
If I could say my final thoughts,
Yeah.
to
Don't
those
ask.
listening. Hold on. I grew up in a severely polite household. So I am going to do all the polite things, because
Yeah, we've also been rude to one another, so
just
you go right on ahead.
that's true. But I can't be rude to
I
Bella.
know. That's
Not yet. We're
that's
gonna get
fair.
drunk.
Not
We're
yet.
gonna
You're
have
gonna
a
get
drunk.
there. You're gonna
Yeah.
get there. Yeah.
Yes, let's have a drunk podcast, and then we'll
Yeah.
talk all
We
the
talk
shit.
all the
Um,
shit,
yeah.
all
We're
the tea.
neighbors. Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I
Oh,
got yeah, and I'll totally succumb to peer pressure. So okay.
okay.
Or I'll just
No,
be
Um,
really.
final thoughts, please. I'd like
Yeah.
to hear
yeah.
your final thoughts, please, Berta.
Oh, thank you. This goes out to everyone, but especially the women out there. You cannot fix somebody. You are not
Mm-hmm.
responsible for fixing them. You are not responsible for changing them. You are not responsible for making them a better person. The only person that you are responsible for is yourself. If you have kids, them, you know. Um, so don't excuse somebody's actions or green flags or anything like that, uh, by telling yourself, A, that you can fix it, B, that you can help them change if you point it out to them, or even C, which is something my mother-in-law said, is, mm, that person has always been that way. Why is it different now?
Mm-hmm.
Just because a certain person is a certain way, acts a certain way, treats you a certain way, doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't, just because there's a history of it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make it right. And because you've lived through it and you've maybe even accepted it, still doesn't make it right. Um, yeah, I'd like to piggyback on what JP said. You're strong and you can
Mm.
find your inner strength, and one of the things to find it is to truly rely on the people who do love you for who you are and as you are, and can maybe help you grow as a person, but won't necessarily hold your faults against you as reason to be mad at you, if that makes sense. Um,
Totally.
Definitely.
we're all on a journey. Yeah, we're all on a path. We're all on a growth, and we're all going to grow. And it goes back to that person, your partner. Are they happy with your growth? Are they supportive of the better person that you are trying to become, or are they holding it against you, or are they trying to hold you back because they feel like they can't grow as a person themselves? You
Yes.
know, so I
Very.
think that's something
Man,
This
I think I
is
to
gained
look
weight
forward
from how heavy this conversation was.
Roberta, if you ever want to
Woo!
write, if you want to be a writer, and you can definitely write on whatever you want on the website. I can,
Really?
yeah, I can like set you up with the login and stuff, and then I can show you how to
Okay.
post it and everything. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes. Okay. I would love to do that.
Yay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll definitely show you. I'll set it up and then I'll show you how to do it. So,
Okay. JP's
hey,
over there's just like smiling up towards
I,
the heavens.
I I
we're
love
building an
y'all.
empire over
We
here.
are building an empire.
Yes.
I love y'all.
Yes.
I
I
love you
love you
guys
guys.
too. This
Love
was
you guys so
I
much.
love this conversation. This is going to be helpful. It was very
Yeah.
nice to release these
I,
tensions.
I I'm
Yes.
every I know it's been twice, but every time we do this, it just reminds me of how grateful I am.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy to see the two of you on the paths that you're on. And it's a lot of love, and it's overwhelming. Um you're positive forces, and it's wonderful. And
Well,
I
thank
appreciate you.
you.
Thank you,
Oh,
JP.
you guys are the criers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are. We're
But now
emotional
more
You
often
creatures.
sweet.
it's I'm a crier when I'm happy. I don't cry when I'm
Yeah, that's awesome.
sad. And
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
yeah, it's that thing of just when you cry just because of overwhelming positivity and
Yeah.
love, it
Yeah.
is a good thing. It doesn't mean that you're weak. I
No,
think that
no.
was
It's
another thing that
beautiful. Yeah.
I didn't cry from the time I was 14 until way later in life, and I am so grateful that I'm able to do it now. And you know, look, everything in moderation except heroin.
Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.
Thank you.